and welcome back to my crafty space. In today's video, I'm going to be putting together the first layout for my Story Kit Crush series using the Listen Story Kit from Ali Edwards. For this particular layout, I took inspiration from the idea of music and the way music is written on music sheets. And what I decided to do was to take this concept of notes and music sheets and bars of music and that sort of idea, and to create a layout, a 12 by 12 sized layout that looks like music, like a sheet of music, but inside of the notes I have stories told, which will make a lot more sense as we get into putting this layout together. I decided that this was one of the videos that I wanted to create and share here with all of you because this is such a different type of layout and one that would probably not be super easy to replicate just by looking at it. That is a lot of times how I'm deciding what videos to share and what projects I'm just creating on my own time that are not videoed. A lot of times what determines that is whether they are easy or a little bit more difficult to understand the construction of by just looking at the page. This one I think is going to be a little bit more tedious, and it might be beneficial for you to see the process of this one coming together if it is an idea that you would like to replicate or just to be inspired by throughout the process of putting it together. So I hope that that makes sense. All right, friends, so here's what I've got to work with today. So I pulled out not only the two half circle chipboard pieces from the Listen kit itself, but I also have two additional half circles, one that says loving, one that says struggling. And those came from the One Little Word kit from one of the mini kits from last year. I also have this one that says now, no better time than now, or no better time than now, right? Enjoy this. These also came from an older One Little Word kit. And then this song and Most Loved were both from the Listen kits. So there's just a variety of sentiments, shapes, and sizes here in terms of my chipboard selection. I also have one of the journaling cards from the kit that says loving this with sheet music up at the top. And then I pulled out three other patterned cards that were from the Storytelling Basics Stories by the Year kit from last year's release. So those I am hoping to use on my layout to help me create some of the note pieces. I also pre-created my journaling. So these circles are going to turn into some of the notes that we're going to make on the layout today. And this is also a piece that I have created a template for if this is something you wish to repeat. So you can find the template for this in the digital downloads for this month, in addition to this page as well. So this is a piece of 12 by 12 textured white cardstock that I printed out gray lines. There are 3 sets of 5 lines. And I wanted this to look like music that I could add notes to on the page. What I'm planning to do is to actually pull over my sewing machine and stitch these lines so that I can add a little bit more texture to my page and make it not as flat here. And then I'm going to add my notes on top of that and either hand stitch or do some kind of, I don't know what yet, some kind of drawing in order to connect the notes together, which we'll see how that comes together as we get working on this layout. All right, friends, so without further ado, I am going to go ahead and put you on fast forward. I think this is going to take me a little bit of time to get it all completed, so it'll just be easier that way. I'll talk you through my process, and then once I have this done, we'll slow back down, I'll redo my journaling, and then we'll call it a day. So let's go ahead and dive in. All right, friends, so we're going to get started with this one by punching out all of my journaling circles. So I'm going to separate them out here, and then I've got my circle punches that I can use to just quickly and easily punch those directly out of my cardstock. The sizes I'm using are 2 inches, which is going to end up being 4 of the circles. And then I'm going to use a 1.5 inch circle punch to do 2 of the smaller circles. And then I also have a 3 inch circle punch, which I'm going to use for the one large circle that you see there to the right hand side of the screen. Once I get all of the journaling portions punched out, then I'm going to grab over all of those cards that I had pulled aside to punch those into circles as well. That way I can help to fill in a little bit of the gray space with some of the pattern from the cards. So this 3-inch circle is going to end up being the music sheet pattern from this card right here, which the card that I have pulled aside is a 3x4 card, but it's actually half of a 4x6 that I had cut that in half, put half of it into this layout, and the other half of it I have in my Project Life stash for later on in the year. I only needed a portion of it, so I figured why waste the whole card, right? So I cut that one into a 3-inch circle. I took a couple of those patterns from the Storytelling Basics collection and cut them into, or punched them into, an 1.5-inch circle. And then I'm going to take all of these half circle chipboard pieces, and those fit on the 2-inch circles. So the nice thing about having this gray area already punched out is it gives me a place where I can stick down the chipboard pieces and have them go exactly where I want them to be. So it makes my text straight, and everything just has a little bit of a home. So we've got 4 of those that I'm setting to the side, and then what I'm going to do is cut off the bottom portion of the 3-inch circle, so just getting the part that's got the text on it. I will add adhesive, and then I'm going to stick that on the bottom half of the pattern that I had punched out into the 3-inch circle. So that makes it easier for me to, I don't know, I didn't want to cut the pattern down because I wanted to be able to position it exactly right, if that makes sense. So I'm going to do the same thing for those 1.5-inch circles. And then once we have everything stuck down, then the base of my music notes are complete. So I'm going to kind of lay these out on my page here just to get a gauge of where everything's going to go, make sure I've got enough of the pieces, that everything is going to fit the way I'm hoping it's going to fit before I start to work through stitching those lines. I also was debating whether or not I wanted to do that. Like maybe I just wanted to leave them as printed, and that's totally something you can do. Or did I in fact want to grab my sewing machine and stitch the lines? Ultimately, I decide that, yep, I do. I want to stitch the lines, so I'm going to pull everything back off, kind of layer it on top of each other so I know the order of all of those pieces. And then I'm going to bring over my sewing machine and get that set up with black thread on the top, and I'm going to stitch along all of those gray lines. There's 15 of them in total. I do back stitch at the beginning and the end. I don't mind the look of the back stitching, and I like that it will ensure that my stitch stays throughout the course of time. So I am going to get started on this second one, and then we're going to skip over a whole bunch of it and get to where I am finishing up with the very last line. So you can see there that it does make those lines a bit bolder, and then in real life, when you are actually looking at this page and feeling the page, there is the texture there as well. So I'm really glad that I ultimately decided to just go ahead and stitch those lines. I think it gave it a really cool look in the end. Now that I have the lines all stitched on there, next I can go ahead and start placing down my notes where I want them to go. So once again, I'm going to bring everything over and position it onto the page, trying to vary where things are landing inside of the music lines there. So it gives it the look of an actual musical composition. And then once I have all of the pieces, I want to then try and adjust them so that it feels evenly spread out on the lines themselves. So like the bottom was a little bit too left justified, so I did want to move things over a little bit and just kind of do my best to make things evenly spaced. Now I am happy with my placement, so I'm going to go ahead and stick these down. I'm taking some double-sided adhesive or score tape here and creating an X or a plus sign on the back side of those circle pieces, and then I'm using my roller adhesive to go around the outside edge. I did this because I knew I was going to be handling this page a lot when I go to hand stitch on it. And I wanted to make sure those pieces were not going to go anywhere, that they're going to stay there, and the adhesive is going to last me, right? Because we don't want to go through all the trouble of doing this just to have the pieces fall off the page. And also, since they are sticking down on top of stitching, I also wanted to be sure that my adhesive was super strong. So I did that for all of the pieces there. And then the last thing I need to do is to draw the tails and the connecting bars between some of the notes here, really on all of the notes, but some of them are just going to have a tail. Some of them are going to be connected. Some of them are going to be connected with 2 bars instead of just 1, which you will see here as we get there. So I'm drawing this in pencil. I am doing my best to have the lines come up to the same point in the middle of the page there. And then some of them, like you can see those first 2, I went ahead and connected the 2 bars together. This one that I'm working on right now, I'm going to add a tail onto it. Now I wanted a pattern that I could follow, so I didn't have to just wing it here. So I grabbed the other half of the 3-inch circle that I had cut apart earlier, and I'm just going to trim a portion of that off to make this a little bit thinner. And then that's going to become a pattern that I can use to draw the tail so that it is even and nice on there. So you can kind of see how that works. So here's where I've got all of the different tails and the bars and everything drawn for all of my pieces. And next what I'm going to do is bring out my embroidery floss. I'm going to use black. And I want to hand stitch all of those lines. I am going to choose to use a chain link stitch, which I will show you a little bit close up how this looks because it is a chunkier stitch. I wanted this one to be quite a bit thicker than the stitching of the lines of the music, if that makes sense, because right now I feel like everything is disappearing into the background. And so this is going to allow it to have like a punch that really gets it, that really grabs your attention and has the notes just pop out from the background. I'm taking my awl here and I'm using this to poke holes about every 1/4 of an inch or so around the chipboard itself, so around the bottom portion of the note and for the entire tail portion of the note as well. So then to do the chain link stitch, what I'm going to do is go from the back side, so I will push my needle from the back side of the page up through the hole. And then I'm going to go back down into the exact same hole. And you want to make sure that you don't pull your string all the way out, otherwise it's going to come out from the hole. And while you've got a little bit of a loop showing on the front side, you're going to go back up from the back to the front, loop your needle into the remaining loop that you've got there, and then take it back down or tighten it into the hole. So here's a little bit of a close-up. So I'm going to go down, leave a loop, you can see it there. Then I'm going to go back up through the next hole, right? Bring it into the loop that I've got there and then pull it tight. And then we'll go back down into the exact same hole again to make a loop, come back up, go into the loop of the string and tighten it. So I know that there are tutorials that you can find online that give a much better look at how to do that, or you can look it up for a diagram for a chain link stitch. To finish it off on the back, I'm just washi taping it down into the thicker note portion. And then I took this aside off screen and stitched around all of the rest of these. It took me about 2.5 hours to get all of that done. Gave me a chance to hang out with the kids though and watch some TV with them, so it was a good time. I will date stamp the bottom corner and then call this done. All right, friends, that completes my layout. This one turned out really cool. I'm very happy with this. It did take me a long time to get all of the hand stitching done. I want to say maybe 2.5 hours just sitting down with the kids watching TV and doing the chain link stitch for all of the lines and then around all of the circles. But it definitely helps to make the music notes pop off of the background. So I'm glad I did that. I hope you enjoyed seeing how this one came together and seeing the outcome of how this idea came to be. I'm really happy with this. During one of our Monday coffee hour discussions in February, I talked a little bit about this idea and said it could either be something really cool or it could be a total bomb. And I'm happy to say that this did not bomb. So there is that. All right, so let's go ahead and read the journaling real quick. So I'm going to start maybe at the bottom and move my way up to the top. So I said, music has played a part in my life in ways both big and small. It was part of my identity as a teen and guided me through a lot of my youth. When in college, music was a way for me to escape. It helped me to feel seen and understood. It reminded me of home and made me feel comfort. A musical group I have felt most connected to throughout my life is a band named Nickel Creek. My grandpa was the one who shared them with me, introducing me to their song, The Lighthouse's Tale. I was instantly hooked. It's been almost 20 years and still they are at the top of they are still the top favorite group. I feel each and every song deep in my soul. Loving, I will always remember when Aaron taught himself to play Hey There, Delilah, and how he would play and sing it to me before we were ever a thing. Nothing will ever beat seeing Nickel Creek with Izzy in my belly and the way she danced. And then there were years in college when life didn't go my way. I will never forget sitting at my desk, listening to music and feeling calmed by it. Even to this day, music makes me feel seen. Surface Pressure from Encanto gets me. So just little snippets of where music has played a part in my life in ways, like I said, both big and small. I really look forward to diving more into stories of listening and stories specifically about music this month in using this kit, because music is something that holds a really special place in my heart, but also something that I feel like has ebbed and flowed in terms of how much I am participating in listening to music, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like the last couple of years have been a lot quieter and not so musically filled than the years of my teenage years and my college years and just being a young adult. I feel like that it's been a lot quieter in my adult life, in my adult parenting type of life. But maybe that's a normal thing, or maybe it's just an ebb and flow in terms of how much music plays a part of our life. All right, friends, well, that's going to be it for me for today. You will be able to find a template inside of the digital downloads for Tier 2 that is going to include the 6 different circles that I did here with the journaling. So there will be a section where I tossed it out. There will be a section of the gray where the pattern would technically go, and then there's going to be a text box for the other half of the section, if that makes sense. So if this is something you want to try doing for your storytelling, you can find the template in the downloads, in addition to the background with the lines that gives it a look as though it were sheet music. So that is that. I'm going to be back later this week with another process video using the Listen Story Kit. So hopefully I'll see you back here then. And then Friday is our Fridays with Friends episode where I talk with a community member about some kind of scrapbooking topic of the month. So looking forward to seeing you in both of those places this week. Until then, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye, friends.